Okay, we're partially up. Something's not happy. Let me just see if I can figure it out. Oh, Facebook, of course. Okay, well, just talk to the people while I try to bring Facebook up.
Are the people there? Hello, people.
The people are there on YouTube and on Periscope. Facebook is being a little bit whiny. So,
Oh, hello, everyone on YouTube and Facebook. We're going to get going here in just 1 minute. This is the BA Zone's 1 minute pre show. We can do it in a minute because we have to. We have no other choice. Hope everybody's day was a fabulous day and a good start to the week, which is going to be hectic, I'm sure, for a lot of us. We'll just wait and see here. Just give it a couple of seconds. And Kathleen will drop in as soon as Facebook is up. So, oh, everybody ready for the holidays? If you're celebrating holidays, I'm not. Nowhere's near, but we'll get there. Kathleen, how we doing?
I'm dancing.
She's dancing. She's dancing without the music. It is 8 o'clock. It is our go time. Just trying to get Facebook up for everyone who's on Facebook. I'm getting ready for the holidays. Or my little Tinker, or my little Yorkie, had his little haircut today, so he's good to go. I kind of look like a mess, but he looks great. I'm sure you all have pets out there. Is everybody doing that thing with pets? If you have pets, is everybody like, getting them all dressed up and all that kind of stuff? It's a lot of fun. I'm sure the dogs and cats and everybody, parakeets, don't appreciate it so much. And just give us a second here.
One more second. I think I got it.
And
There always has to be one fighting back.
It wouldn't be interesting without that. It's live. Everything is live.
Okay,
We are good. I think I heard we're good. Okay, everybody, welcome to the BA Zones live show. We were just talking about the holidays. There's just something special about this time of year. The houses are decorated. The traffic is horrendous. There's a chill in the air, and your socks seem to have a migration plan of their own, right? You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Two go into the dryer, one comes out. Where is that other one? Well, I'll tell you where that other one. It's clinging to the inside of your pants, and it's just waiting for the right time to jump off when you least expect it. And so this holiday season, if you see a sock lying in the gutter, just think it got away, and so can you. Anyway, that's a little humor for this evening. I'm Marianne Morrison, and Kathleen Sinnott is in the background taking care of all of our technical stuff that we've got going on back there. And together we make the BA Zone, and we are taking the BS out of business analysis. So tonight's show is going to be team tips, and specifically, we're going to be talking about getting organized by setting up files and folders that make it easier to access and update information, which will really save you time and a lot of frustration. And this information can be used by anyone. You can set up these files, your own personal files too. It's not just for business analysis. So if you know someone who might be interested in this topic, just reach out and share us with your friends, your coworkers, or that certain someone you want to get off of your couch. So in the meantime, before we get going, let's put on our little party slippers and let DJ Kathleen spin that intro music for us, everyone. Hang on. Bust a move. Okay, so while I slip my hip back into place after that little dance session, let's get on to tonight's topic. So, do you have trouble? I feel like sort of an analyst now, a different type of analyst. So, do you have trouble finding the files that you need? Do you always use the search function to find the files only to realize that you can't remember what the name of the file was? That happens to me. Or maybe you find the file, but you're not sure if it's the latest version or if it's the complete version of that file. Or do you have so many files that by the time you find the one you're looking for, you probably could have just rewrote the document? Or do you often have to ask someone if they have a copy of a particular file because you just can't find it yourself? And do you lie about that and say you're having a computer problem and that's why you can't find it? Well, those are some of the problems that we're going to try to solve tonight. So if you've answered yes to any of these questions, you're not alone. And it happens periodically, even if you are well organized. But tonight we're going to give you some tips on setting up and organizing your files and folders that will help put things at your fingertips and make your team a lot more productive. So, what are some of the steps that we do, or some of the tips to get organized around that? Um, so, what are you going? Where are you going? The first thing you want to decide is where you're going to put all these folders and files. So, if you have your own personal computer, you might keep them on your hard drive. Or there might be a personal area on your work computer where you can save files to. You might have a shared drive within your organization. You may have Google Drive or Dropbox or OneNote, etc. So whether you put it wherever you put it, make sure that you also save it somewhere else so that you have a backup or two, just in case you lose something or the house, God forbid, burns down or your organization remaps your drive and can't find any of the files from your old drive. And I can feel Kathleen smiling right now. But once you know where you're going to put the files, and in a large organization, it may be there already, and you may have a more formal approach of how you'd have to reorganize it. But if you're a smaller organization, you're having all these difficulties with files and folders, there's a way to set them up to make it easier for people to access it. What you're going to want to do is get a share drive for your group of business analysts. That would be the first step that we would do, and that's only to be used by the BA team. Um, Once you have files on your BA shared drive, it's within your own little domain and you can control it. For things like tech specs or business requirements, once you complete a business requirement, you get that final approval or sign off, save it as a PDF. Definitely save it as a PDF or an uneditable type of file, right? And then put it out to the shared drive where project managers or account managers or whoever, developers or QA would be looking at it. But you want to try to get that shared team so that you're all looking at the same information and the same version, and it's complete, and you can standardize it. It makes things go much easier. So how do you do that? The first thing you want to do, and you want to do this as a group with your BA team, and I would suggest giving them a template, something to look at of how you're going to set up these files and folders, and then get their opinion and get, setting up files and folders is all according to how you think. There's no wrong or right way to do this. It's whatever way works for you and the rest of the group if you're sharing it. So you want to create a set of main folders and subfolders underneath those folders. So picture those boxes like, picture the boxes, you ever see those home decorating shows where they have file boxes, with the little label that you can put on the front of the outside of the box. That would be your folders, your main folders. And then you put other folders within that box, right? And within those folders then are your files. So that's sort of an easy way of thinking about it. Or if you have the old school, if you have a big filing cabinet and you open the main drawer labeled A, everything in there is A, and then there's folders, etc. So that's the way you want to think about it. And when you're creating these folders, again, it depends on your business. It depends on how you think or how you work. And so, for example, if I were setting up my personal home files on my personal computer, I might create main folders for medical, credit cards, investments, insurance, or monthly bills. If you were in the publishing business, your main folder might be by genre. So you might have mystery, romance, thrillers, biographies, historical, science, autobiographies, etc. And then subfolders within each genre might be authors and their contracts, etc. So if you're a project manager, maybe you're going to set up, maybe your main folders might be by year, this year, 2017, and then within that, all of the projects that occurred in 2017, and then the individual pieces or files that are associated with that particular project. So your highest level is always going to be, that tree. If you've ever heard of that tree setup, the highest level is your parent folder, and then you have subfolders underneath that. If you're a BA, the way I like to set up a BA's folders, their main folders and subfolders, is I like to set up a folder called common, like one common or general, whatever makes sense to you, that main thing. And within that, I would put things that are sort of universal, that everybody's going to need for whatever project they're going to be working on. So that could be a main glossary. This is where the glossary always is going to be. And if you need it for your document, you can go and make a copy of it and plop it right into one of your technical specs or your requirements document. You might have a messaging engine that, if you have a suite of products and it's an engine that takes in and produces messages and alerts, that may be sort of a universal or global thing. You may have messages in there. You would definitely put templates in there in this common folder, a subfolder called templates. And in those templates, you might have files for, here's a template for the requirement document. And it might be in a long version and a short feature version. You might have a subfolder for meeting minutes, a meeting minute template, subfolder for the workflow template. You want a template. You want your workflows to have a template on the bottom so that they're formatted so that there's a version and a date and an author, etc., and the layout of how those workflows should look. Comp layouts, business rules template, a client folder template. If you do a lot of client implementations, you may want to just have literally a folder with subfiles set up that you can copy and paste into another client folder so that you always follow the same file subfolder, folder subfolder format. So that whole common area is like a main with a bunch of subfolders underneath that and files within. Another main folder, like I work on a lot of enterprise applications where there's typically, or a suite of applications where there's typically more than one application. So I like to break up our main folders by application. So if I have application A, within that, I might have the master for everything that has to do with that application, a little orientation or overview of what it does, the wireframes associated, the comps associated with the workflows and process flows associated with that application, business rules, use cases, and any type of maybe forms or letters or any type of fulfillment that comes out of that. And I like to do that by application. And then within that application, there's also, here's all the enhancements and the tech specs. Here's the training associated with that particular application. And, you can also have an archive area. So an archive folder, so you can move things, older things into the archive folder. Now that archive folder could be one folder if you want it at the main level, or within each of these main folders, a smaller archive, just to keep it clean and ongoing. You might have a lot of clients as a BA, so you might have a client folder. And within that particular main client folder, you may have a subfolder of client A. And then within subfolder client A, you may have a folder for the client's minutes, all the minutes that you've taken, or interviews you've done, or contracts by expiration date, or service level agreements, SLAs, and they may be by year. So there's many ways that you can do this, but you want to come up with what everyone would see in common with this particular with the particular folder. Another thing you could list, if you deal with a lot of vendors and licenses, you could have one for vendors. You could have, as a BA, one for reports. Maybe you have a reporting, whether it be a desktop reporting or actual reports. And maybe you have subfolders of the different types of reports, finance reports, operational reports. And that way you're storing everything very logically. And again, it depends on the type of business you're in. It depends on your particular role. And it depends on how you think and what you do. But again, if you're going to do this, and the best way to keep a team together, and I can't emphasize this more, is to come up with this structured way of putting your documents in. And especially if you consistently do this, people come and go in organizations all the time. And a lot of that information gets lost. This way, if everybody follows this type of rule and this type of process, nothing gets lost, unless you really file it badly and that happens sometimes, but typically no. So, and again, don't forget that archive. You could archive, brainstorming ideas or research, things that you're not going to look at a lot of. You can archive under a given folder, and you can always go back to it. So, and you can set up however you set up this team shared drive, you could set up your home drive on your work computer the same way. So it's seamless. You're moving files in and out all the time. So that's the way you can easily, just by doing that one thing alone, if you take the time to do it, will save you a tremendous amount of time. I can tell you, just the other day, I saved a file, and I literally, within the time I saved it, 5 minutes later, do you think I could remember the name of that file? No. But because it's in a certain folder that I knew I was working in that particular thing, I was able to find it, So it's very, very helpful to do that. So we'll just take a quick little break here. And Adam, hello, Adam. Is this just happy holidays to you too, Adam. Hope everything's going well out by you. And let's see. So if you have any comments or questions, feel free to jump on board. And if you have any other organizational tips, let us know. And just to let you know, Kathleen will put up all of the places you can find us and access additional information if you want to see previous shows, or if you want to drop us a line. A lot of folks I know drop us suggestions and comments at thebazone.com, and we do get back to everyone. And we are also on Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube, all the usual suspects. So feel free to just chime in at any point in time. Okay. So once you get those main folders and subfolders set up, and again, if you're agile, obviously your labels might be a little different. Use cases might be user stories, etc. So, however you work, that's how you want to set up those particular labels. Now, when you're setting this up, when you're setting up your folders, your subfolders, and your files, the key takeaway here is to make it easy to file and easy to find, right? So here are some sort of tips to accomplish that. So when you're creating folders, you only want to create, initially at least, essential folders that everyone is going to understand. Those essential folders that right off the bat, you can put things in, and by the virtue of their name alone, people know exactly what goes in there. You don't want to create, you want to limit the number of subfolders if you can, because you don't want to go down a rabbit hole of multiple subfolders that may only have one document in each. If you're doing that, then you've created way too many subfolders. So you really need a good balance between, how many main folders you have, how many subfolders you have. If you create too many subfolders, you're quickly going to hit that tipping point where you're over organized and it's taking you longer than it's worth. And you begin misfiling things because you're not sure if it belongs here or if it belongs here. So initially start out at a much higher level. Also, you want to think about, naming conventions. So a file naming convention is just sort of a structured way of naming the files that go into your folders and subfolders so that it describes what they contain and how they relate to other files. So you want to create file names that are meaningful and sort of unique. And you want to think of them as keywords. If you were searching for something, you would search for a particular keyword. So a name that triggers someone to say, I know exactly what to put there or what that file is about. You can create a sort of cheat sheet for your team members to follow this structure. And I would recommend it because everybody has their own way of naming things, but it's much easier if things are named consistently to find things. So when you create the cheat sheet, and again, it depends on how you work, but you don't want to use too many abbreviations or jargon. I mean, you can use certain types of jargon as long as it's understood by the team that's working on it. Sometimes some people have a particular name for something or an abbreviation. That's okay as long as everybody knows what that means. But you want to try to make it as clear as possible and not use that. So you always want to include in a file name the name of the thing. If you have an ID number for it, a version, a date, and a status if a status is necessary. So, and there's different ways of doing that. If you're working in an environment where you're looking at a lot of target dates or using dates, then it may make sense to put the date first so that everything is in chronological order. And you would do that typically by year, month, day, so that you're in the right year, the right month, and the day. And then you would put the name of the thing or whatever it is, the version, and again, a status if you need it. And you do want to add statuses where you need it. So, for example, in a requirements document, you want to have that status at the end. And I usually put that status in capital letters. So if it's a draft, it's DRAFT. So the way I would do it, I don't usually work in the chronological order. That's not the main thing I need to know. It's sort of usually tech spec for a particular feature. And if there is an ID from, say, some type of enhancement system or bug system, like TFS or fog bugs, you want to include that particular number. Or if you've got some type of unique number for projects, you could put that in there. You definitely want to add the version, and I put the date after that and a status with the big draft. So that's the way I do my technical documents. So it's draft, then it goes to status of final review, and then it's final approved, and then after that it might be updated, final updated version, whatever. But you want to come up with that type of status, that naming convention, so that's consistent as well. So however you do it, just make sure it's consistent. Again, give people a cheat sheet so they know what to do and how they want to document that. Try to keep the file names short and to the point, as far as what it is, the thing. Some applications have limits on file name length, so you want to be careful on how long you make a file name. I mean, you can do a pretty long length. There's also a way to standardize them. I have a tendency in between each of those elements in the file name. So for example, if I said technical spec for, I don't know, messages and alerts, version 1, draft, in between each one of those elements, I tend to do underscores because it makes it stand out and clear, and I can visually see in a list what I'm looking for. That's one way of doing it, with underscores in between each of the elements of the field name. You could use hyphens. Some people, and you'll see a lot of this in also coders who do like SQL, they'll use camel case, which is everything is all together with no spaces, but the first word of each element is capitalized. You can do it that way. You can just do normal spaces, whatever works for you. As long as it's consistent throughout, you're fine. Another handy thing to do uh, in order to make it easier to work with the files and the folders. If you're working with a particular folder on a consistent basis multiple times during the same day, create a shortcut. It's just a little icon that you can click on and go right to that particular file. That comes in really handy when you have a lot of folders that you're working with, in a bigger organization. If you're constantly going in there, just use shortcuts wherever you want to, and you can just hit that little icon on the desktop and get right to where you need to be without, traversing through the entire tree. So those are just some of the tips. And I mean, if you do that, if you really take the time to initially set that up and then really be diligent about keeping up with it, it will definitely save you a tremendous amount of time. And again, however you want to set it up, people think differently. Kathleen and I do this all the time when we work anywhere. We say, okay, how do we want to set up the file system? And she does think a different way than I do, but we agree on how we want to set it up. And then it makes it much easier to find information when one of us is out or we need that information for a project. So just to take a quick little break here, just want to mention a thank you again for everyone who took the survey. That we did, and we're planning next year's show. So thank you again for that. I think it's all out there. I think it's still out there, isn't it, Kathleen? I believe the survey is still. We haven't closed that yet.
Yeah, no, they'll be out there through the end of the year.
Through the end of the year. There she goes, the voice from beyond. So yeah. So again, and if you have any questions, drop us a line after the show. We love to hear from you. Again, we do this for you. We get a lot of our show inspiration from you guys, and we'll be setting up our programming next year based on your feedback. So thank you again for taking care of that. So let's just wrap this show up this evening. So, eventually, I mean, if right now you're not following any organized type of structure, I highly recommend that you do that. If you have a BA team, you could suggest it. And if you have to organize the existing old files, if you do that, it's not a problem. Just make sure you tell everybody where you've moved things to so that they can find them. Again, everyone thinks differently, and if they're used to going one place for one thing and then you kind of move it on them, kind of might defeat the purpose initially. So just let them know, and let them know ahead of time, hey, we're thinking of moving this over to here. Does anybody have a problem with it? So however you want to do this, you just need to find a system that works for you and then stick with it. Consistency is what will help you stay organized, in the long run. And it just becomes so much easier. You don't spend so much time looking for things. I can tell you, you could spend a half hour to an hour just looking for files, and you've wasted that time, and it's really frustrating. So take the time, set it up. I wish you all luck with that. And again, any questions, feel free, reach out, and we'll help you with that. And I hope this was helpful. And I hope you had a good time tonight, and I hope you have a fabulous week. And I think that's all I have for this evening. So everybody just take care. Be careful out there as the weather gets a little colder if you're in a cold area. But take care. Enjoy the holidays, everyone. We'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.